그게 이유야?
아가씨, 뭐야 이것도.
The story about a rich woman who falls in love with her own servant. Even though they loved each other and have even slept together, but their relationship is opposed by her grandfather because believes the man is only taking advantage of the girl. This girl is named Kong Hyena, the sole heir to the largest company in Asia. In addition to being known for her wealth and talent, Hyena is also known for being arrogant and unpredictable. She doesn't hesitate to insult anyone who disagrees with her, and she's even bold enough to hit or throw down any man who tries to get close to her. In her luxurious palace, Hyena is served by dozens of maids and assistants who are always on standby for her 24 hours a day. Even though she lacks nothing in life, Hyena is never satisfied and constantly looks for faults in her servants. It's been counted. Hyena has changed personal assistants dozens of times, but none of them ever worked out, and in the end they were dishonorably discharged.
아가씨 잘못했습니다.
Her days, once filled with arrogance, suddenly changed with the arrival of Seo Dong-chan in her life. Dong-chan is known to work odd jobs and has many problems. To pay off the debt for his mother's medical expenses, Dong-chan was forced to borrow money from a ruthless loan shark who often extorted him. In the past, Dong-chan even worked as a male entertainer at a bar, but now he chooses better jobs, like working as a delivery driver at his aunt's flower shop, until he even once worked as a preacher at a church. Their first encounter began when Hyena was driving recklessly and suddenly stopped at a red light after cutting off the pickup truck driven by Dong-chan. This caused the pickup truck to brake abruptly, making the flower arrangements Dong-chan was delivering fall and scatter everywhere. The two fight in the middle of the street because Hyena refused to apologize to Dong-chan and threw money at him to shut him up. Instead of accepting the money, Dong-chan, who felt insulted, refused it and chose to take Hyena to the police station.
뭐? 상습범?
Seeing that Hyena was bored waiting at the police station, her lawyer tries to offer peace money to Dong-chan. Dong-chan was momentarily stunned when heard nominal the amount 50 million won, which turned out to be exactly equal to his total debt. Feeling that he was innocent, Dong-chan was still reluctant to accept the offer. Eventually, Hyena accused him of being a fraud and decided to take the matter to court.
너 말 다 했어?
맘대로 해. 너 겁낼 줄 알아?
아가씨.
Unfortunately, even in court, Hyena was found guilty. As her punishment, Hyena was sentenced to 150 hours in public service and had to pay a fine. As the daughter of a conglomerate, Hyena felt humiliated when the media covered her doing rather disgusting tasks, like when she was cleaning out livestock pens. Meanwhile, Dong-chan, even though he won in court, but still struggled to make money and continued working as a taxi driver. After finishing her public service, Hyena got into a conflict with her cousin named Sua, who had always been annoying and jealous of her. Sua and her family tried to find a way to have Hyena removed as an heir. Feeling upset, Hyena decided to look for Dong-chan to get revenge on him. At first, she ordered his taxi and acted as if Dong-chan had harassed her and was about to kidnap her.
너 지금 뭐 하는 거야? 야! 야!
The incident led to Dong-chan being arrested by the police.
내가 납치범이야! 아니잖아! 내가 납치범이잖아!
Dong-chan's cousin, Weiju, tried to get him released from the police station. Fortunately, Hyena's grandfather heard about the incident and got him released. Hyena still tried to kick Dong-chan out of her aunt's house under the pretense of eviction. Until finally, Weiju's mother heard the news that she had to move out of the house immediately. Honestly, Dong-chan very upset and realized that his opponent was a cruel woman with power. All night, Dong-chan kept drinking and stayed awake. The next morning, with all his determination, Dong-chan dared to go to Hyena's house. Arriving at a very grand house, Dong-chan was blocked by Hyena's 3 bodyguards. Until forced, he had to fight with them so he can break in. In the serene and beautiful park, Dong-chan unexpectedly met a man he initially believed was actually a gardener. However, to his surprise, The man turned out to be Hyena's grandfather, the name Mr. Kong.
걔 좀 만나러 왔는데.
In front of Mr. Kong, Dong Chan boasted he could teach the girl manners and break her fingers if Hyena did anything bad to others. The grandfather, who wanted to change Hyena's attitude, immediately locked his granddaughter at home. Hyena was left frustrated, as she had actually planned to go on an overseas vacation to unwind. Before leaving, while at the airport, Hyena was suddenly dragged away by Dong Chan, who pretended to be her boyfriend.
뭐하는 짓이야?
Even though she kept resisting, Dong Chan didn't care and still forced Hyena into the car. Hyena thought Dong Chan would take revenge on her. The girl kept screaming for help from a passing police officer. However, it turned out the police car ignored it and instead moved towards Weeju's house. Meanwhile, Dong Chan's car kept moving until it stopped at a grand house. It turns out that Dong Chan brought Hyena home on her grandfather's orders. Hyena was shocked and couldn't believe if her grandfather had planned all of this. To all the staff, Dong Chan introduced himself as the new personal assistant appointed directly by Mr. Kong.
앞으로 아가씨를 모실 수행집사 서동찬입니다.
It was the first day of being Hyena's personal bodyguard. Dong Chan was treated poorly by the girl, and manager Jang also rejected him. However, President Kong tried to convince them to keep Dong Chan and made it clear that no one was allowed to fire him without his permission. And Kong, as the head butler, began directing everything Dong Chan needed to do. His responsibilities as a bodyguard turned out to be quite heavy. Dong Chan must take care of Hyena for 24 hours and must know what she wants. Not accepting that her life is being watched, Hyena starts acting out and tries to make Dong Chan feel uncomfortable. Hyena called him while he was practicing martial arts and repeatedly hit him with a wooden sword. Not only that, Hyena continues to insult him and threatens to get rid of him soon.
그 말을 믿을 것 같아?
After being accepted as the head butler, Dong Chan asked his aunt and Weeju not to worry about him because his job now pays quite well. Dong Chan went to the loan sharks and assured them that he would pay off his debt in just 2 months. He arrogantly said that he would easily win Hyena's heart because he used to be a charming entertainer who was an expert in seduction. Because the deadline already passed, the loan shark demands that Dong Chan pay double, or if not, he will take much harsher measures.
5천이니까 따버리면 1억이네.
Feeling uncomfortable with Dong Chan as bodyguard, Hyena kept looking for reasons to get her grandfather to fire him. At the family dinner event, Hyena deliberately instructed the kitchen staff to stop cooking and leaving Dong Chan alone to arrange all the dishes for the guests. Even though Hyena treated him harshly, Dong Chan promised to keep doing his best as the top kitchen servant. With all his energy and limitations, Dong Chan managed to create a delicious dish for invited guests.
늦어서 죄송합니다. 앉으시죠.
In front of the audience, Dong Chan presented a special fried rice with a distinctive Andalusian flavor that left the guests absolutely and indeed amazed by his genius way of speaking. The next morning, Hyena caused a commotion because she was upset about her grandfather's urging her to marry. Even though she was forbidden to attend the horse racing event, Hyena still went there accompanied by Dong Chan. Suddenly, Hyena saw a handsome young man who looked very much like her ex-boyfriend. She was so focused on looking at the young man that she completely ignored her own safety and nearly got hit by a passing horse rider. Luckily, Dong Chan was quick to save Hyena from the blow. Apparently, Hyena is trying to chase the man's car by riding a horse and running a distance. However, in the end, Hyena had to cry in full disappointment because the person she was chasing was not her ex-lover, but a man named Lee Taeyeon. Taeyeon is the son of a conglomerate from the Yusong group who has dedicated himself as a lawyer. Unlike his older brother who runs the company, Taeyeon, who graduated top, chose to live a simple life, far from his family, to advocate for the underprivileged. Previously, he had problems with Suya's father because he refused to build a golf hill belonging to the Kansen group, which would be built in a cultural reserve area.
누가 그딴 소리를 해?
The incident at the horse race that endangered Hyena was apparently discovered by manager Jang, which led to Dong Chan being fired for being deemed negligent in protecting his employer. However, instead of being happy, Hyena has changed his mind and still wants to employ him longer. Hyena made an excuse that she wasn't satisfied with torturing him, even though Hyena felt touched Dong Chan saved her at the horse race. On the other hand, Weiju is now working at a shoe store owned by Sua. Thanks to her diligent work, Sua really likes the girl because she always praises her shoe designs. All this time, Sua has been someone who craves praise and refuses to accept even the slightest criticism.
설마 그게 전부는 아니겠죠?
Chairman Kong, who wants his granddaughter to get married soon, plans to introduce Hyena to a man who is the son of the owner of the Yusong Group. And coincidentally, Taeyeon also wants to meet with President Director Kong to stop the construction of Gulf Hill. Feeling annoyed because always being matched, Hyena tries to run away, but Dong Chan keeps persuading her. Dong Chan wishes Hyena to see the face of her fiancé once so that her grandfather can feel at ease. Before hitting her fiancé's face the other day, Hyena first wanted to hit Dong Chan's face. However, when she about to slap him, suddenly Taeyeon stopped her and saying it was illegal. Because Taeyeon was considered too bold for touching his employer Dong Chan, rejected him harshly. For a moment, Taeyeon is stunned after hearing Dong Chan introduce himself as Hyena's fiancé.
당신 뭐야? 우리 아가씨 손 당장 떼지 못해?
To vent her frustration, Hyena kicks Dong Chan as hard as she can. Even though she had ignored him, it turns out Hyena is very curious about Taeyeon and starts looking him up on the internet. Hyena was a bit surprised to see Taeyeon's work history, realizing that he wasn't in business like his parents, but rather a lawyer with a small salary. On the other hand, Sua, who has fallen for Taeyeon, tries to get closer to him. She doesn't care though Taeyeon is her own cousin's fiancé. At the grand opening of her latest boutique, she even invited him as a special guest. However, they didn't meet each other because Taeyeon came for a short while and left after greeting Mr. Julger. At the event, Hyena, who appeared so graceful, really captivated the camera's eyes until Sua felt outmatched. In order to make Hyena fall for him, Dong Chan asked the loan sharks to stop the girl after the event, and he would pretend to protect her like a hero in an action movie. But what happened was completely unexpected. It turned out that those who came weren't a gang of loan sharks, but thugs with muscular bodies. It turns out the thugs were ordered by young Master Park, who didn't accept it because yesterday Hyena refused and slammed him after the meeting. Dong Chan, who was outnumbered, was almost beaten to buy them. But luckily, Taeyeon come and helped him fight off the three thugs.
뭐 하는 거냐?
Seeing how brave Taeyeon was when protecting her made Hyena truly fall in love. She couldn't sleep all night because she kept thinking about him. Meanwhile, as the deadline for paying off Dong Chan's debt approaches, he becomes more determined to make Hyena fall in love with him. He managed to get Hyena to come out of her room after singing a romantic song and playing the piano. Not only that, Dong Chan had previously turned off the air conditioner in his room so that Hyena would ask him to fix it. In the bathroom, he had imagined a romantic night and was getting ready to kiss the young lady. However, the plan was thwarted by manager Jang, who came to monitor the house's CCTV. The next morning, Hyena went to the lawyer Taeyeon's office to give him a gift of several branded clothes. Of course, it was a token of thankful because Taeyeon had saved her from a gang of thugs. As an idealistic and honest lawyer, instead of being happy to accept it, it turns out that Taeyeon returned the gift, which offended Hyena. Besides rejecting the gift, Taeyeon also sneered at Hyena, telling her not to use her wealth to control others. Because he is not someone who can be bribed.
왜 저한테 하는 거죠?
해나 씨도 강상구로 강해나라에 유한.
The insult really deeply frustrated the girl until leading her to vent by drinking wine all night. Accompanied by Dong Chan, Hyena cried, telling her all her disappointment because Taeyeon rejected her attention and didn't agree to this match. First time, Hyena felt undervalued because of her wealth. She regretted being briefly captivated by Taeyeon and thinking that he was similar to her ex-boyfriend, when in fact they were very different. Tonight, it's not just Hyena who is feeling worried. Dong-chun experienced guilt after his lie was discovered by Weiju. All this time, he literally lied to his cousin that he was going abroad, when in reality, he had become Hyena's servant, someone his family despised deeply. The next day, Hyena was scolded by her grandfather because her name appeared on the front page of the newspaper, which reported that she had just signed a letter of support for the lawyer Taeyeon, who was opposing her own father's company.
아니, 너 도대체 이게 어떻게 된 거냐?
It was a misunderstanding because yesterday, Hyena had signed a document at the law office. She didn't know that the letter actually a petition to protest the actions of the Yusong Group company that laid off thousands of workers. Hyena tried to dodge and defend Taeyeon because the lawyer never asked him to support the petition. However, grandfather still acted for the stability of the Consang Group.
내 이놈을 당장에?
Not accepting that his granddaughter was associated with the Yusong Group company, the grandfather immediately withdrew his investment, causing the company to suffer significant losses. Hyena went to the lawyer's office to clarify the signature she had given the day before. Apparently, at the lawyer, Taeyeon is fighting with his brother who disagrees, because Taeyeon had used Hyena as a tool to go against their own father. In an emotional state, Taeyeon snapped at Hyena to get out of his room and not interfere in his personal affairs.
강혜나 씨, 그쪽에 끼어들 일 아니에요.
However, when Hyena tried to distance herself, suddenly Taeyeon came and intimidated her very harshly, saying that he didn't like the way Hyena was approaching him, especially getting involved in his father's company. Fortunately, Dong-chun arrived at the right time. He immediately Taeyeon in the face and warned him not to be rough with Hyena. In front of Taeyeon, he emphasized that his employer was a generous person and had no intention of pursuing him. The woman wants help workers at Yusong Group to get their rights. Hearing that, Taeyeon truly regretted having treated Hyena so harshly. He now has turned gentle and wants to apologize for his actions. However, feeling humiliated, Hyena vented her anger on Dong-chun and kicked him quite hard because her bodyguard kept rambling and warning her not to meet Taeyeon too often, who clearly rejected her.
아씨가 이태원 변호사 좋아하잖아요. 아니에요?
웃기지 마.
While at home, before Hyena arrived, the servants had already anticipated before Hyeon tantrum and broke of various vases. They were a bit surprised to see the Hyena not destroying anything but instead channeling it by practicing martial arts until late at night. The next day, Hyena, trying to return the clothes rejected by Taeyeon, got into an intense argument with young Master Park, who previously ordered the thugs to harass her. The girl hit him hard. His nose bled as a result. The young master threatened to report her to the authorities.
아가씨!
At the same time, Taeyeon suddenly showed up and claimed to be Hyena's lawyer. He turned around to corner the young master because he had ordered thugs to harm Hyena. After the issue was peacefully resolved, Hyena agreed to forgive Taeyeon and start over from the beginning. Even though she had been hurt by his behavior, now Hyena forget it because she had truly fallen for him.
창피할 것까진 없어요. 잘 기억도 안 나니까.
On the other hand, Sua, who couldn't accept Hyena's closeness with Taeyeon, tried to investigate and asked Weiju to gather information about the two of them. The girl started cautiously asking Dong-chun, but his brother strongly denied that his employer had a special relationship with the lawyer. The relationship between Hyena and Taeyeon has just begun in order to gain the attention of the lawyer, saying Hyena is even willing to take a public bus for the first time because Taeyeon never drives a car home. Throughout the journey, Hyena felt happy because she could be with the man she admired. The relationship with Taya now faces strong rejection from grandfather, although it was grandfather himself who previously arranged their match. Now, grandfather has changed his mind upon learning that Taeyeon is not a businessman, an enemy of his father's company.
뭐야?
할아버지, 저 이 사람 좋아해요.
The grandfather didn't want to risk marrying his granddaughter to man rebel. He then forced Hyena to fly to America for several years to keep her away from Taeyeon's life. Frustrated because her romance was opposed, Hyena asked Dong-chan for help so she could stay in Korea because she didn't want to be far from Taeyeon. Dong-chan is trying to help as much as possible because if Hyena goes to America, he will automatically be dismissed. The next morning, Dong-chan devised a plan as if Hyena had run away from home to stay temporarily at her aunt's residence. Hyena's disappearance caused an uproar in the entire household, with the servants scattering in all directions to search for her. The girl managed to sneak into Aunt Dong-chan's pickup, delivering flowers to Hyena's house. Next, Dong-chan explains to grandfather and manager Jang that Hyena will not return until their relationship is approved. The worried grandfather tried to give his blessing to them if Hyena was willing to work at the Kongsang Group office as the chief director. He was left speechless after his granddaughter kept insisting that she truly loved Taeyeon, even if the whole world tried to stop her.
제가 누구 손녀인가요? 바로
In order to be with Taeyeon the first time, Hyena is willing to work at Kongsang Group even though she doesn't understand what needs to be done. As soon as he arrived office, Sua, who's cynical, immediately greeted her with a mocking tone. She even asked Dong-chan to switch to being her bodyguard instead of working with a witch like Hyena.
해나가 괴롭히면 언제든 때려치고 우리 집으로 와.
As an assistant Sua, Weiju is really confused about her bosses, who is hostile towards her grandfather's cousins. As the days go by, it turns out that Taeyeon is becoming more eager to get closer to Hyena because he feels that the girl is not the conglomerate he imagined. Similarly, Hyena felt the same way. She missed Taeyeon deeply.
제가 회의가 방금 전에 끝나서
However, Dong-chan prevent himself from being too aggressive and show his love so that Taeyeon feels more needed by him. He also forbade Hyena from answering the phone when Taeyeon called and said she was busy at the office and asked her to pretend she couldn't attend the party invitation for the orphanage children.
회사 스케줄이 워낙 바빠서 안 되겠는데요?
Behind that, it turns out Dong-chan still took her to the donation party and arrived slightly late. He created the impression that Hyena was very busy, yet still made time to attend out of respect for Taeyeon. So that Dong-chan wouldn't bother her during the event, Hyena asked him to go to the bookstore and look for some novels about dating. At that simple party, Hyena truly enjoyed the event and was entertained because Taeyeon sang a love song for her. Out of sheer happiness, Hyena kept drinking soju nonstop until she went home drunk.
씨, 괜찮아요?
All the way home, she kept rambling and talking about how much she admired Taeyeon. Dong-chan, who saw the young lady sleeping so beautifully, tried to touch her, but he refrained because she had already woken up. When Hyena got out of the car, she asked about what would happen next in her relationship with Taeyeon and what she should do the next day. Without thinking, Dong-chan immediately kissed Hyena on the lips and said that the next stage of approach was physical contact. Because was considered to have brazenly taken advantage of the situation, Hyena, who had been trying to hold back her anger towards Dong-chan, vented her anger the next day by beating the man with a stick until he was battered. Unable to fight because he felt guilty, Dong-chan was late and received a harsh reprimand from manager Jang. In the afternoon during work break, Hyena was very excited to attend a lunch invitation with Taeyeon. The lawyer wants to express his thankful because the lady has donated 100 million won to the orphanage foundation. However, it turned out that the event lost its specialness because Sua came to interrupt and wanted to join the meal.
태연 씨한테 상담할 게 있어서 들렸는데 네가 온다고 해서.
Both feeling annoyed at the dining table, they both seemed fiercely competing for Taeyeon's attention. Even in the middle of the conversation, Sua mocked Hyena for never working seriously and only coming to the office for formalities. In order to defend his employer, Dong Chan immediately asserted that Hyena has a secret program that is very beneficial for the company.
비전을 제시할 신규 프로젝트를 극비리에 진행 중이십니다.
Unexpectedly, Sua immediately reported the program, and suddenly her grandfather asked her to present the results of her plan to the board of directors. Feeling like she had no prior experience, the girl was confused about what to do. However, fortunately, Dom Chan provided her with the best solution that Hyena is very skilled in martial arts and asked her to present a self-defense tutorial for the female employees to protect themselves from harassment. Dong Chan played the role of a punching bag for the women who wanted to practice. He even let himself be beaten to support Hyena's presentation. The video tutorial of her beauty uploaded to YouTube successfully amazed the viewers, and the grandfather was very proud and valued Dong Chan's patience in taking care of his granddaughter. However, Weiju is very angry with Hyena because she often commits violence against Dong Chan. She asked her cousin to resign from the job immediately, but Dong Chan refused because he sympathized with Hyena, who was an orphan and lonely. He understands quite well that actually Hyena is not evil, it's just that he is too rough because he is too spoiled. After recovering from her injuries, Dong Chan returned to work and got ready to help the other staff prepare a banquet to welcome the Sua family. Unfortunately, he was suddenly approached by loan sharks demanding repayment because today was the due date. To avoid Hyena's suspicion, Dong Chan lied that they were church members who came to wish him a happy birthday.
그치. 해피 버스데이, 해피 버스데이.
생일?
He also tried to avoid those thugs so that Sua wouldn't see them, because yesterday the three of them had disturbed Sua at the grand opening of the boutique. In the evening, Hyena planned to go to an apple orchard to accompany Taeyeon. Initially, she asked Dom Chan to lie to her grandfather so she could pray without any obstacles. But because didn't want to worry grandfather, Dong Chan finally confessed until grandfather let her attend the party as long as she was accompanied by a bodyguard.
원래 솔직한 게 최고입니다.
With great enthusiasm, Hyena asked to depart at midnight so they could arrive in the morning. During the journey, he gave Dong Chan a birthday present, which moved him deeply. He became more convinced that Hyena had started to change and wasn't as cruel as she was at first. Even in writing, it stated Hyena didn't want Dong Chan to stop and asked for patience. She even promised to change for the better so that Dong Chan would want to be by her side and help her win over Taeyeon. When they arrived at the location, Hyena was a bit disappointed because Taeyeon still hadn't shown up. The lawyer then promised that he would come in the afternoon. Donkin tries to cheer up Hyena so she can enjoy the trip by playing a little bit in the apple orchard and spraying water at her. After waiting for quite a long time, it turned out that by nightfall, Taeyeon ended up apologizing over the phone, saying he couldn't make it. At that time, Taeyeon said he had to take care of the employee protesters at his father's company. Waiting all day and willing to come from afar just for the lawyer, but Taeyeon disappointing her. As a result, Hyena felt frustrated and vented by drinking liquor endlessly. Hyena cries in front of Dong Chan and keeps rambling because of her futile journey.
어떻게 나한테 이럴 수가 있냐?
For a moment, she realized that Taeyeon was only playing with her and never returned her feelings. Hyena regrets it was too naive and hope, but its love was never reciprocated. While at the inn, drunk Hyena asked Dong Chan to stay with her as she was afraid to be alone. She forbade her guards leaving until she was completely asleep.
너? 약속했다?
However, it turns out that the exhausted Dong Chan also fell asleep next to her until morning came. Unconsciously, he also took off his clothes and fell asleep next to Hyena. As soon as she opened her eyes, Hyena screamed and accused Dong-chan of doing something to her. At the same time, Taeyeon, who felt regretful for disappointing Hyena, arrived at the plantation villa early in the morning to meet her. Not wanting to be outdone, Sua, who always wanted to be close to Taeyeon, apparently followed him to the plantation location. The young man immediately knocked on Hyena's room door, making her truly panic.
일어났어요?
Realizing Taeyeon knocking on the door made both of them surprised. Dong-chan then covered Hyena's mouth so she wouldn't be discovered, which then made Taeyeon misunderstand. Even though Taeyeon tried to wait outside the door, Sua was suddenly barged in and saw Hyena trying to hide Dong-chan in the closet. Dong-chan tries to explain this misunderstanding last night Hyena asked to be joined, but in the end he fell asleep and nothing happened between the two of them. However, Sua still didn't believe and began to corner him. Not much different, Taeyeon suddenly turned cold as if he didn't care, even though his heart was very jealous. Hyena was very angry with Dong-chan and kept blaming him. Hearing this, Weiju couldn't accept Hyena, always blamed her cousin. Even though Hyena tried to chase him, but Taeyeon really didn't care until Sua suddenly felt awkward after that incident.
그놈한테 전한 이놈의 손가락을 그냥
During lunch, Taeyeon acted relaxed and didn't pay attention to Hyena at all. In reality, the girl was trying to find an opening to invite him to go horseback riding, but Taeyeon kept refusing. Seeing that situation, Sua felt satisfied and mocked that Hyena was more suited to Donkin than to Taeyeon.
저희도 별로예요.
Because the situation was getting heated, Dong-chan couldn't stand it and finally revealed everything, that Hyena was willing to come all the way here just for Taeyeon. But why, he ended up ignoring Hyena just because of a misunderstanding. Dong-chan's very angry attitude in front of many people made Hyena furious, and she took it out on Dong-chan. As the sister, Weiju can't accept that her older brother is always being hurt by Hyena, switching to Hyena and Weiju, who are fighting fiercely each other until Taeyeon and Dong-chan try to intervene. Dong-chan saves his sister while Taeyeon tries to pull Hyena out of this fight. When Taeyeon tried to talk to her, because still feeling disappointed, the girl refused and chose to walk away. To calm her feelings, Hyena walked quite a distance from the villa location until Taeyeon and Dong-chan were confused looking for her. After searching the entire area, it was Taeyeon who found Hyena first. The girl still looked angry and tried to walk away ignoring him, but suddenly the lawyer grabbed her hand and hugged her. Not far from there, Dong-chan in anguish saw the two of them embracing. Upon arriving home, Hyena was happy and thankful to Dong-chan for helping her get closer to Taeyeon, but it turned out that this made Dong-chan unhappy.
먼저 전화한다 그랬지. 분명히 그랬지.
Meanwhile, Hyena invited Taeyeon to eat together and took her to her house at her grandfather's request. Taeyeon kept smiling and jokingly asked if this relationship was really just a friendship until the group president invited him to a formal event. In the afternoon, while Dong-chan was on CCTV monitoring duty, Manager Jang approached him and asked him what his purpose was in coming to this house and why he made so many mistakes. Aware of having made many mistakes, Dong-chan was left speechless and unable to respond.
놀랄 것 없네. 다 알고 있으니까.
Because Manager Jang kept insisting, Dong-chan finally admitted he was forced to lie to Weiju and Weiju's mother because he didn't want to make them worry. This alleviated Manager Jang's suspicions and even made him sympathetic because he knew Dong-chan was in debt to pay his mother's hospital bills. However, Manager Jang told the Wason waiter to watch his movements. Before her love arrived, the girl asked Dong-chan for his opinion on her looks. Moreover, this is Taeyeon's first official visit as her lover.
어때? 나 이상하지 않아?
Considering that Hyena no longer has both parents and trustworthy relatives, the grandfather asked Taeyeon to choose between Hyena or his profession as a lawyer. Grandfather apparently didn't want his future son-in-law's profession to become the biggest obstacle in his business. Responding to this, Taeyeon was honest with grandfather by saying that he would not give up either because both of them were an important part of his life. While Taeyeon was still talking with the grandfather, Hyena waited for him while playing the piano. When Taeyeon arrived, the two played a romantic song together. Even though not very skilled, however, Hyena always tests it until Taeyeon smiles. Not far from there, Dong-chan was watching them with a face full of sadness. After receiving news from her mother, Weiju, worried about Dong-chan's debt, went to Hyena's house for an explanation. She wanted to help Dong-chan pay off the debt, but Dong-chan continued to hide the truth until the two got into a rather serious argument. The commotion immediately caught the attention of Hyena and Taeyeon, who were not far from the scene. Feeling disappointed, Weiju returned home in tears, and Taeyeon intended to accompany her home.
의자 잠깐만. 의주 씨.
Seeing Dong-chan looking unwell made Hyena curious about why Weiju was so emotional towards him. To multiply it, Dong-chan lied that he had wronged Weiju and often disappointed her. Even though Dong-chan admits that he is not a good person, Hyena denies it and insists that she trusts Dong-chan because he is the most patient servant and can truly handle her. As promised, Dong-chan has to meet the loan shark, and this time he emphasizes that he failed to seduce Hyena and he would never do such a thing to his employer. Even though it sounded brave, in the end, Dong-chan was badly beaten and didn't fight back. He then returned to Hyena's house in a state of disarray. Dong-chan approaches Hyena, learning to ride a bike. The girl is curious about why Dong-chan was injured. So that Hyena wouldn't worry, he acted as if everything was fine and argued that fighting was a common thing for men. One day, without Hyena's knowledge, grandfather went for a health checkup due to his poor heart condition. To be honest, he was worried about Hyena's well-being after he was gone. Especially after learning from manager Jang that Dong-chan wants to quit his job. As difficult as it was, grandfather couldn't stop him because he understood that Hyena had always been a burden to him.
아쉽구만.
As a farewell gesture, Donkin once asked Hyena to start preparing her own breakfast so she wouldn't rely too much on others. But in a casual tone, Hyena replied that the servants were paid to serve her. Before morning, he joined the Hyena on a bike ride until both were smiling happily. The girl doesn't know Dong-chan will quit as her assistant. When saying goodbye, Dong-chan certainly wanted to definitely call his employer by name without using Miss Hyena because he was no longer her employer. Honestly, Hyena was hesitant to let Dong-chan go, but she didn't stop him and pretended not to want to see him again.
그게 네가 그만두는 이유의 전부야?
Since Dong-chan stopped working, Hyena reverted to her old ways and is even worse than before. Meanwhile, at the flower shop, Dong-chan works well without issues, but his days are still always filled with longing for Hyena. It wasn't much different. Turns out Hyena felt the same way. She acquaints Mrs. Dong-chan and asks Weiju about his state.
서동찬 걔 잘 지내?
The girl even went to the flower shop to meet Dong-chan and make excuses if she happens to be passing by. She asked Dong-chan to come back, but he refused, which made her quite upset, and she slammed a flower pot.
다신 너 보고 싶지 않으니까.
In the Kongsang Group Board of Directors meeting, Hyena made a significant mistake that resulted in major losses. The careless Hyena apparently just signed an operational contract because the mall was supposed to close. Feeling blameless and unable to come up with a solution, Hyena simply walked out without offering any explanation. As she got home, her grandfather scolded her for being so careless in making decisions. In an emotional state, Hyena argued back, saying she was never interested in the company's affairs and didn't want any of the wealth. Hyena even boldly declared that she would be fine if her grandfather handed the company over to Sua's family.
제가 언제 회사를 맡겠다고 했어요?
뭐?
Upon hearing that, her grandfather suddenly suffered a heart attack and had to be rushed to the hospital. In a panic, Hyena immediately called Taeyeon and informed him that her grandfather's condition was worsening. The lawyer then headed straight to the hospital to meet Hyena. While at the hospital, she was surrounded by dozens of reporters covering the latest updates on President Kang's condition. Apparently, Dong Chan, who saw the news, immediately went to the hospital and he arrived hospital before Taeyeon. Swiftly, he warded off the journalists and put up his body to protect Hyena from various questions about grandfather's condition. To avoid Hyena, Dong Chan led her to the rooftop of the building. But a few moments later, Taeyeon caught up with them and was immediately greeted with a warm hug from Hyena. Even though he felt jealous, but Dong Chan couldn't do anything but let go of Hyena's happiness. Feeling that his task was complete, Dong Chan prepared to leave, but Taeyeon tried to stop him and asked Dong Chan to continue looking after Hyena as before. He ignored the advice Taeyeon and said goodbye go home, but before that, Dong Chan asked Taeyeon to look after Hyena because she was stressed, because her grandfather was sick.
우리 아가씨 잘 좀 부탁드리겠습니다.
Even though the manager had never liked Dong Chan's presence, this time, he realized how important his role had been all along. Dong Chan heard news if grandfather had to undergo treatment in America and asked Dong Chan to return to work.
다시 우리 해나의 수행집사를 맡아주면 안 되겠나?
Throughout the night, Dong Chan was doubtful. He didn't want to go back there because he couldn't keep torturing himself. He didn't want to make Hyena a target to pay off his debts. However, what could he do? Dong Chan couldn't refuse grandfather's request, who was worried about his granddaughter's condition.
사장님, 아가씨는 제가 책임지고 모시겠습니다.
When Dong Chan returned to work, grandfather was finally able to calm down to go abroad, and he entrusted Hyena to take replaced him as president director. He advised Dong Chan to always help Hyena in handling company matters because he is the only person who can be relied upon. In the end, Dong Chan returned to work as head butler at Hyena's house. There was something different about him today. Previously, he was wearing a black coat like the other servants. However, Dong Chan is wearing all white, who's showing his position is higher than before. Honestly, Hyena feels happy because its servant has now returned, but on the other hand, it wonders why Dong Chan decided to quit. With a loud voice, Dong Chan answered that he really likes hyenas and worried for her condition. However, at that time, Hyena thought it was a joke and she didn't want Dong Chan to quit as a servant.
너 지금 나 놀리니? 내가 그 말을 믿을 것 같아?
Because she didn't want to think about the complexities company, spoiled girl returned to her arbitrary position and wanted to get out of the office. Until Dong Chan was forced to carry her and ask her to change into proper attire. Dong Chan even kept dragging her until he was willing to lead an important meeting at the office. Thanks to Dong Chan's help, Hyena confidently stepped up to lead the board of directors meeting and took her grandfather's place as the president director.
상무가 중역회에 들어오는 거 당연한 거 아닌가요?
The presence of the hyena left Jolga shocked, because from the beginning he was so sure that he would be the one to replace the president. It wasn't just the directors who were surprised by the presence of hyenas. Sua and Weiju fell silent when they heard it. Even Weiju immediately questioned why Dong Chan was willing to return to being a servant when he had decided to quit and work at her mother's store.
오빠는 강혜나 그 기집애 머슴살이 하는 게 그렇게 좋아?
Dong Chan explains his reason for returning, not for Hyena, but rather from his grandfather's request. But the angry Weiju doesn't seem to accept that excuse. After work, the girl went to the loan shark's office and was shocked to hear that Dong Chan's debt had increased to 100 million won. One of the loan sharks told her that Dong Chan promised to pay it off after successfully seducing Hyena. But it turned out that until now, he hadn't succeeded in completing his mission. Weiju, who feeling Dong Chan is cheated with rising interest rates, turns to the Taeyeon Law Office for legal advice. It turned out that when she got there, she didn't find a reassuring answer, so she was determined to borrow 100 million won.
그래서 말인데 저 돈 1억만 빌려줄 수 있어요?
Taeyeon felt guilty because he didn't have that much money, explaining that it was his family who was wealthy, not him. In a state of frustration, Weiju can only drink alcohol until she gets drunk and babble. Accompanied by Taeyeon, Dongchon, and Hyena, the girl even revealed that her older brother once worked as a professional dancer at a nightclub. She resentment towards Hyena was blatant. She said she would soon help her older brother stop being a slave haen.
아니, 오빠 자랑 좀 해보고 싶어서 그래.
Hearing that, Dongchon then excused himself to take the girl home, but Weiju became even angrier because Dongchon never wanted to understand her feelings and prioritized Hyena over herself, who was under threat from the loan sharks. On the other hand, apparently Taeyeon is becoming increasingly jealous of Dongchon and Hyena's closeness. He once considered getting closer to his parents to be on par with Hyena, as his grandfather hoped. Meanwhile, Dongchon prepared necessities for Hyena before the coordination meeting. After signing the contract for reopening the mall temporarily shut, Hyena will later be appointed brand ambassador and head of the shopping center. She started studying all the books about company management recommended by Dong Kan. Hyena had also written a list of everything she liked, since she would soon become a trendsetter among the public. The next morning, Kongsang Group office, pre-meeting, Dongchon encouraged Hyena and taught her to remain confident during the presentation. But before the event started, he asked for permission to meet his friend and promised to return before it ended.
친구들을 좀 만나기로 했는데.
Before he left, Hyena asked him to grab a document she had left in her office. However, it was the loan sharks had already visited the office before Dongchon met them. Apparently, they had told all the secrets about Dongchon to Hyena until the woman suddenly slapped him. Actually, the slap that Hyena delivered to Dongchan's face was an attempt to protect him from Sua's pressure, who had caught the 3 loan sharks coming. They also explained to Hyena and Sua that during the grand opening of the boutique at that time, they were asked by Dongchon to disturb Hyena and create a scenario as if Dongchon was acting as a hero. However, they misunderstood and finally disturbing Sua. To avoid Sua's action of wanting to report them to the police, but Hyena firmly forbade her from interfering and promised to resolve the matter because Dongchon is her servant.
그놈들이 노린 건 나였잖아. 근데 왜 네가 나서?
After sending Sua away, Hyena finally learned everything about Dongchon, including his debts and his previous profession as an entertainer. Even Thait felt shocked and disappointed. However, Hyena feigned ignorance in front of Dongchon. He also promised the loan shark that he would pay off the entire debt. Hyena even worried about Dongchan's face after slapping him and assured him that she had to do it for Dongchan's own good.
많이 아팠어?
As a result of stalling for too long to meet the loan shark, Hyena arrived late to chair the meeting until the management waited and finally broke up. The two of them had a heated argument until Dongchon advised the meeting be postponed until next week. When she was disappointed in Dongchon, Hyena tried to cheer herself up and poured out her heart to Taeyeon. All day she accompanies her playing basketball and walking in the park. He also asked why many people always look at him because of money and those closest to him actually betray his trust. Taeyeon tried to calm his heart and explained that it was indeed possible that the person had a strong reason and unintentionally betrayal of Hyena.
어떡하긴 뭘 어떡해요. 믿어야죠.
Feeling uncertain about Taeyeon's unsatisfactory answer, Hyena vented her anger at home by throwing down all the dishes served by the servants. She also threw a plate, and the glass shards injured Aunt Kum's face. Today, Hyena is out of control, and the servants are trying to understand it. Dongchon, who didn't accept it, tried to reprimand her because Hyena shouldn't be rude.
너 지금 이게 뭐 하는 짓이야?
Not yet satisfied with expressing her anger, the hyena came to the bar. Accompanied by Dong Chan, the girl initially pretended to cover up her sadness because she was disappointed with Taeyeon's indifferent attitude. But in the end, she explained her hurt to Dong Chan, who deliberately approached her only for money.
또 네가 해결해줄게.
Feeling cornered, Dong Chan froze and didn't expect Hyena had found out everything from the loan shark. She threatened to fire Dong Chan and reveal his secrets to grandfather. However, it turns out that was just a bluff, as the hyena wasn't ready to lose Dong Chan for the second time.
눈치채지 못했을까? 바보같이.
Even though she had settled all of Dong Chan's debts and put the loan sharks behind bars without the man's knowledge, however, Hyena's disappointment was unhealed. She kept cornering Dong Chan during lunch at the office. In front of Taeyeon and Weiju, Hyena even mocked Dong Chan as a man more suited to being an erotic dancer in a nightclub than being a slave to a conglomerate. That made Weiju and Taeyeon uncomfortable to hear. As a cousin, Weiju is very annoyed with Hyena's attitude of openly insulting Dong Chan, but yet still wanting to employ him.
강혜나 쟤 지금 오빠에 대해서 다 알고 있는 거야.
On the other hand, Taeyeon was equally jealous until he teased Hyena about the special relationship between her and the servant. Meanwhile, Weeju's mother, who knows that her daughter likes Dong Chan, tries to find a suitable girl for Dong Chan to marry. In her eyes, Dong Chan was like her own child, and she wanted to prevent her daughter from loving him.
네가 동찬이 좋다니까 그랬다. 왜?
엄마!
They are now truly relieved after receiving the news that the loan shark has been imprisoned for fraud. At the other hand, in Kongsang Group office, Hyena faced a major problem while leading the presentation. She was allegedly accused of plagiarism and reportedly stealing ideas to boost his name. Hyena received a wave of negative reactions from shareholders who saw her as incompetent as a leader. In reality, it was a trap set by Sua and her father. In fact, they were the ones who stole Hyena's idea and wanted to throne her from the status of main heir. When her mind was in turmoil, Dong Chan was always by Hyena's side and continued to encourage her to fight until the end. That night, the frustrated Hyena went to the entertainment club where Dong Chan used to work as a dancer.
생각보다 일찍 왔네.
여긴 어떻게 알고 오셨어요?
Knowing that Hyena was drunk, Dong Chan immediately dragged her roughly and asked her to go home immediately. However, Hyena refused and continued to mention Dong Chan's profession, which was very despicable and did not deserve to be by her side. Dong Chan, who couldn't stand it any longer, immediately started bullying her and asked what her purpose was in doing this. He even turned his face towards Hyena, as if he wanted to kiss it, but Hyena tried to dodge it. He made an unpleasant remark that although Hyena is wealthy,
근데 너 돈 많아?
after both of them were emotional in the end, Hyen ultimately managed to escape Dong Chan's reach and ran away. The girl continued walking without paying attention to the signs until she didn't realize there was a truck passing in front of her. Luckily, Dong Chan quickly ran just in time to save Hyena. Dong Chan acted by pulling Hyena away from the truck's path and took her home. All night, the girl just daydreamed without wanting to be disturbed. She didn't even answer Taeyeon's calls, which made him even more worried. The next day, Weejoy, still upset about Hyen treatment of Dong Chan, comes to her to talk to him. Now Hyena knows why Dong Chan chose the profession of an entertainer in the past. She felt guilty when she heard Dong Chan, who was forced to become an entertainer because he had no other way to pay for his late mother's hospital care. Weiju emphasized that Hyena shouldn't treat him poorly because Dong Chan never tried to seduce her and instead was trying to help her become better as her grandfather hoped.
챙겨주고 지켜주고 상무님 편 대주고.
When Weiju had just left Hyena's house, Taeyeon saw her and was curious about what the two had discussed. On the other hand, Dong Chan actually went to his mother's grave. He is used to being Hyena's servant, but he can't quit his job because he worries about her. When Dong Chan arrived home, it turned out that Hyena had been waiting for him all night. Both of them felt guilty and apologized to each other. Hyena also promised not to treat Dong-chan poorly like before.
너한테 못되게 군 건 미안.
Dong-chan now realizes that she is the reason why Hyena can't trust others. He admitted that he didn't want to be honest because he was deeply ashamed if others found out about his previous job. Although embarrassed, he eventually confessed that he once had feelings of love for Hyena. However, now Dong-chan asks her not to worry as he has eroded his feelings of love. Dong-chan is aware of his position because Hyena already has Taeyeon. Meanwhile, Taeyeon couldn't shake the feeling of something special between Hyena and Dong-chan, so that he was set to find the answer from Weiju. The girl couldn't tell him about Dong-can's feelings for Hyena. However, Weiju urges Taeyeon to immediately marry Hyena to avoid Dong-chan's feelings.
어차피 두 분은 결혼하실 거잖아요.
While at the office, Dong-chan cornered Sua and threatened to expose all her cheating, which involved copying Hyena's files and claiming them as her own work. Dong-chan also asked Weiju to investigate the copied file and be ready to reveal it at the right moment. Meanwhile, Taeyeon received good news after his older brother came to see him. This time, his older brother chose to take responsibility for the mass layoffs, and the Taeyeon party won as the defense. Not all that, his older brother once asked about the relationship between his younger brother and Hyena and requested that Taeyeon bring her partner home to be introduced to his parents. Upon hearing it, Taeyeon agreed to invite Hyena to come over, and it turned out the girl was learning to make rice balls for him. In the midst of conversation, Taeyeon suggested that the Hyena should not rely on Dong-chan. He also emphasized if the two of them marry, he would assume Dong-chan's roles in her life.
저도 제 나름대로 인정해보려고 노력할게요.
With such serious determination, Taeyeon has even chosen the most beautiful ring to propose to his beloved. When Dong-chan helped Hyena her work, the girl became curious about when Dong-chan would redeem the birthday gift coupon since its validity was about to expire. However, Dong-chan couldn't decide on his request yet because he planned to take a day off the next day to accompany Weiju on a walk. Dong-chan wants to fulfill his promise to take Weiju around the amusement park and buy anything she likes. Dong-chan wants to do it because Weiju has always been envious of Hyena, who he always serves.
원하는 거 있으면 다 말해. 내가 다 들어줄게.
After enjoying their walk, Weiju became more curious about whether Dong-chan intends to stop and if he will continue living with Hyena's family. Dong-chan firmly stated that he still has many responsibilities to handle while the president is undergoing operation abroad. Dong-chan's words really disappointed Weiju because she always hoped that Dong-chan would be free from Hyena.
모르지도 못하려면 쳐다보고 있는 건 아닌가 걱정했었지.
As soon as Dong-kan arrived home, Weiju unexpectedly followed him and immediately kissed him passionately. She sincerely apologized for being impolite to him and said that she really loves Dong-chan and doesn't even care even though they are like siblings. Not far away, Hyena saw Dong-chan and Weiju's affection, but she pretended not to know anything. After being missed for so long, finally President Kong returns from America. However, it turned out that Grand Gather didn't undergo operation there because the risk was too high. Grandfather wants to hold an event for Hyena's inauguration president-director. Honestly, Hyena very surprised by its sudden appointment. However, Dong-chan encourages her and continued to motivate her. Hyena is capable and worthy of becoming the successor of the Kongsan group.
열심히 하다 보면 그 속에서 뭔가 배우는 겁니다.
Dong-chan was given a speech material to memorize for the inauguration event tomorrow. On the long-awaited day, the shareholders arrived with the utmost preparation, especially the hyena who has worn her very beautiful white dress. Her appearance captivated Dong-chan when he saw her beauty. Feeling nervous, Hyena suddenly froze in place until Dong-chan quickly hugged her tightly. Both of them were awkward and controlling their feelings and could only look away. Before the event started, Dong-chan, who always by Hyena's side, helped her learn the text. She was so nervous that she even dropped a glass, injuring her finger, and Don Chan immediately tended to it. In front of the mirror, Hyena asked if she gave her speech, Don Chan must not leave and should stay by her side. Unexpectedly, Hyena asked Don Chan to stay by her side, even though her grandfather had returned. Don Chan didn't respond, he just smiled without agreeing to Hyena's request. Meanwhile, Weiju, who was jealous of seeing Don Chan being so attentive to Hyena, immediately went to Taeyeon and revealed everything about the relationship between Hyena and Don Chan that he had asked about yesterday. With a face full of sadness, Weiju explained that Don Chan initially intended to woo Hyena in order to pay off his debt. However, as time went by, the love in Don Chan's heart grew so sincere and he wanted to protect her. Even Weiju emphasized that now Don Chan is slowly starting to erase his feelings of love because Hyena chose Taeyeon.
그거보다 더 나쁜 건 뭔지 알아요?
Hearing that, Taeyeon suddenly became emotional, but he tried to attend while the event was still ongoing. Meanwhile, Hyena, who were initially nervous, suddenly became optimistic after receiving encouragement from Don Chan, who watched her speech. Despite facing numerous and various obstacles and insults from Mr. Julga, the confident Hyena promised to make the Kansang group significantly much better than before. When Hyena stepped down from the podium, the grandfather protested against it because he considered it excessive and too confident, even though its abilities hadn't been tested. However, Hyena tries to convince the grandfather to keep believing in her conviction that she is capable of carrying out the company's duties.
제가 틀린 말한 건 아니잖아요.
그렇다면
Taeyeon, who could no longer hold back his anger, confronted Dong Chan and punched him in the face. He really didn't expect that the man he thought could protect Hyena actually intended to take advantage of her. He firmly asked Don Chan to leave Hyena's side immediately and never appear in front of her again. Feeling guilty after much thought, Dong Chan reluctantly accepted it and promised to resign soon. Realizing the two men were tense, Hyena asked them, but Dong Chan didn't provide explanation and insisted everything was fine. The next day, when he took office, Mr. Julgu incited the other directors. He wanted to demand that Hyena fully carry out her duties and boost sales at the newly opened shopping center. Even Hyena couldn't avoid it and reluctantly agreed, so it had to work hard accompanied by Dom Chan and her team.
많이 배고 싶으시죠? 아가씨 좋아하는 여기 호박 피자.
Because it is still difficult to achieve the expected target. In fact, Hyena had taken a shortcut by paying a number of affiliates and fake buyers to boost sales. She deliberately used her own money so that her grandfather wouldn't suspect any foul play. Hyena consistently kept reporting the expansion of her business to her grandfather until he felt truly proud of Hyena and believed it wasn't in vain to entrust the company to his granddaughter. Meanwhile, Don Chan, who promised to resign to Taeyeon, invites Hyena to enjoy the sunset from the rooftop. He also wants to say goodbye. Dong Chan has realized his mistake, and to him, Taeyeon is not a selfish person who asked him to stay away from Hyena.
옆에 있어달라는 아가씨 소원 못 들려드린 거 미안해요.
Dong Chan's heart is truly at ease now, and he has assured Weiju that he will soon return to her mother's flower shop. In order to protect Taeyeon's feelings, even though with a heavy heart, Hyena finally accepted Dong Chan's resignation. All night she was sad while continuing to look at the man's photo. The next day, Taeyeon invited Hyena to have dinner together at a fancy restaurant. While getting ready to put on a diamond ring, Taeyeon expressed his feelings and said he wanted to marry Hyena as soon as possible. But Hyena's response was completely unexpected. The girl rejected Taeyeon's proposal and reasoning that lately she has been preoccupied and hasn't thought about getting married yet.
저 요즘 많이 힘들거든요.
Hyena's rejection really broke Taeyeon's heart, and the two of them suddenly felt awkward and unfamiliar. Feeling so frustrated, Hyena took it out by drinking at a bar until she was nearly unconscious. A bar employee contacted Dong Chan, and his former bodyguard had to carry her all the way home. Hyena was truly caught in a dilemma. When the man she initially loved proposed to her, Hyena refused. Because her heart is now filled only with love for Dong-chan.
많은 일들이 있었지.
Feeling that something was wrong with Hyena's achievements, Mrs. Julgo and Sua finally managed to find evidence of irregularities. This time, Hyena has been cheating and complained everything to grandfather. After hearing the news, President Kong was truly furious and eventually decided to kick Hyena out of the house. He also revoked all facility Hyena had been enjoying up until then. The president who banned servants from helping her pack her belongings. Now Hyena has nothing left. Even her credit cards have all been deactivated.
죄송합니다만 정지된 카드인데요.
Hyena's life is in disarray, and she is left to wander aimlessly. Although servants try to stop her, this time President Kang's decision is firm to teach his granddaughter a lesson not to act recklessly. Hyena tried to go to a first-class hotel to stay, but it couldn't enter because its card was empty without a balance. She only afforded to rent a third-class lodging with facilities far below standard. For several hours after arriving, the girl felt hungry and she didn't have a cent. Hyena wanted to call Taeyeon, but she was reluctant as she rejected his proposal yesterday. The only person Hyena can rely on now is Dong-chan. However, Hyena doesn't want to contact him as he is no longer his servant. Inside his bag, there was only a small bottle of liquor that he could enjoy until it made Hyena fall asleep. But who would have thought, when Hyena opened its eyes, suddenly it was in Dong-chan's room, and the man woke it up.
일어나 이 아가씨야.
Hyena wakes up and finds herself in Dong-chan's room. She doesn't remember anything about calling Dong-chan last night while heavily drunk and crying out of fear alone in the hotel.
내가 여기 왜 있어?
Dong-chan tries to persuade Hyena to go home, but the girl refuses and admits that her grandfather is really very angry and doesn't want to accept her. Dong-chan advises Hyena not to get into the habit of drinking when stressed, and she should definitely contact someone close like Taeyeon to find a safe place to stay.
누가 겁낼 줄 알아?
아유 설정.
Instead of agreeing, Hyena refused and promised to stay at her friend's house. All night she held back hunger till morning when she asked Dong-chan for food. On the other hand, after hearing Seho's opinion, Taeyeon finally realized that he had been wrong to ask Hyena to respond to his feelings at such an inappropriate time. Taeyeon was completely shocked when he heard that the girl had been kicked out by her grandfather and had nowhere to stay. Because worried, Taeyeon finally searched Hyena and found it dragging a suitcase with Dong-chan on the side of the road. This time, even though he felt emotional seeing Dong-chan with his crush, Taeyeon tried to apologize for yesterday's mistake, which was quite selfish. Taeyeon hoped that Hyena would be willing to stay somewhere safe with her. But it turned out, Hyena rejected his request and chose to distance because her feelings for Taeyeon were no longer the same as before.
태우 씨, 정말 미안해요.
All day Hyena wandered aimlessly, all day not knowing where it should go. Although she used to be very obsessed with Taeyeon, over time, Hyena now indeed realizes a lawyer is not a comfortable refuge. There was no other choice but to return to Dong-chan's house, even though she really hated being there.
가자.
Meanwhile, Dong-chan, who had just met with manager Jang, was so shocked after learning the truth. All this time, grandfather didn't undergo operation while in America, as he doesn't have much time left due to his age. His reason for driving his granddaughter away wasn't out of resentment. He wanted Hyena to be able to live independently and resiliently without relying on anyone after he was gone. Manager Jang advised Dong-chan to help Hyena live independently because he is the only person trusted by President Kong. Grandfather is willing if Dong-chan scolds his granddaughter and tells her to do daily chores because that's exactly what he hopes for. All day long, Dong-chan searched Hyena at her office and in various corners of the city after Taeyeon reported that Hyena refused to go with him. As soon as he found the Hyena returning to its home at night, Dong-chan finally welcomed it with joy. From the beginning, he suspected that something bad must have happened between Hyena and lawyer.
생각나는 사람이 없었어.
The next morning, Dong Chan began his mission to make the hyena live independently without relying on facilities. This time, he didn't treat her like a princess, but instead asked her to do household chores like sweeping, washing clothes, and even minding the store. Dong Chan advised that while Hyena stays at his house, she must be willing to work and not just sit idly by and eat for free. As if finding a way to vent her heartbreak, Weiju also began treating Hyena like an assistant. She asked her to carefully wash all the thick blankets by hand and asked Hyena to learn how to cook so as not to burden other family members.
근데 어디서 공짜로 밥을 먹으려고.
The girl wondered why people at Consang Group thought that Hyena actually flew to America for a vacation when in fact Hyena had to become a housemaid. The news of Hyena's deactivation from the Consang Group made Sua and her family happy. With such confidence, they thought that Jolga would be the one to take the position of president director.
가요? 사랑해요?
And Kang, knowing if Hyena was at Dong Chan's house, felt relief while visiting. She became even more proud after seeing for herself that her very pampered employer was now very willing to do housework chores and even wash the dishes. In front of Aunt Kang, Hyena complained about her current situation, but the woman continued to support her to hold on while grandfather still hasn't forgiven her.
표정도 많이 밝아졌어요.
While at the flower shop, Hyena, still acting recklessly, broke a flower pot without remorse. Dong Chan advised her not to act as she pleases because she is no longer a princess, but an unemployed girl. Dong Chan suggested that Hyena work as a salesperson, but the girl refused with various excuses. On the other hand, Taeyeon met Hyena at the flower shop. He wanted to apologize and make peace with Hyena. Taeyeon tried to hug her and promised not to be harsh again. He truly regrets and cannot control his emotions and jealousy when witnessing Hyena still being with Dong Chan.
미안하단 말 하러 온 건데.
Feeling that he shares the same fate as Taeyeon, whose love is unrequited, Weiju tries to persuade Lawyer to cooperate and take revenge on Hyena's betrayal. However, Taeyeon refused because he held no grudge against Hyena and wanted to move forward a serious level. Taeyeon then asked his grandfather for permission to seek his blessing, and the grandfather agreed, as long as Taeyeon's family would love his granddaughter like their own daughter.
나도 우리 해나 빨리 시집 보내고 싶네.
The girl was finally introduced to Taeyeon's parents at a banquet in a luxurious restaurant, even though Taeyeon's parents really liked her. It turned out that during the meeting, Hyena felt stressed and wanted to leave quickly. She felt as if she were trapped in her own emotions. Her body was there, but her heart kept thinking about Dong Chan. In the middle of the conversation, the girl suddenly excused herself after receiving news that Dong Chan had just been in an accident.
아줌마, 무슨 일이야?
Without hesitation, Hyena went to the hospital and found Dong Chan had several injuries on his face and hands. Even though Dong Chan felt fine, Hyena was crying because she was very worried.
정말 나 진짜 이거.
Hyena openly admitted that she deliberately ran away from the meeting with her future in-laws just to be able to see Dong Chan. Unexpectedly, Hyena's panic suddenly landed a kiss on Dong Chan's lips. After being stunned, Dong Chan then moved to kiss Hyena's lips. Both of them now no longer hesitate to admit their feelings for each other. As a woman whose every need is always attended to by Dong Chan, it is impossible for Hyena not to be moved by his attention, and now she is even willing to let go of her relationship with Taeyeon and choose to give her heart to Dong Chan. Even though what Dong Chan said is absolutely true, however, Hyena tries to convince herself and Dong Chan that she wants to be happy with the man of her choice in her own way. So far, the only person who can make her life more colorful and happy is Dong Chan. Throughout the journey, the two were no longer hesitant to show affection in public, walking hand while smiling happily. Even at home, the two appeared so close and chatted all night until they fell asleep on the porch. Hyena seeks info on Dong Chan, including his birth date, hobbies, and his blood type. Due to his unfit physical condition, all-night Dong Chan developed a fever, and Hyena took care of him patient. In her simple home, the princess who was always pampered slowly transformed into a loving and caring girl. She was even able to do homework without anyone's help. Once the condition had further improved, Dong Chan invited Hyena to a school to get a job as a mural painter. For the first time, Hyena earned a salary from something she worked for without the privileges of wealth.
회장님 이거 보시면 대견해 하시겠는데요?
As an expression of her happiness, Hyena used her first paycheck to buy Dong Chan a gift in the form of a hat and a necklace. While putting the necklace around his neck, Hyena asked him to never leave her no matter what happens. Meanwhile, Taeyeon, who feels frustrated because Hyena is more worried about Dong Chan's condition, tries to vent his anger by drinking alcohol at a bar. He was truly disappointed in Hyena, even though he had made up his mind to take their relationship to a more serious level. Taeyeon truly and deeply shared all her heartache with Weiju, who felt the same way because Dong Chan consistently overlooked her.
때예요? 어떻게 뭐라도 좀 해봐야 되는 거 아니냐고요.
For the first time, Taeyeon completely lost control. Drinking without measure, in the end, he passed out and Weiju had to take him to a motel. When the girl was about to say goodbye, it turned out Taeyeon, who was still drunk, suddenly grabbed her and hugged her. While calling out Hyena's name, Taeyeon mistook Weiju for the love of his life.
왜 이러세요?
Even though nothing happened between them, but Weiju was forced not to go home to accompany Taeyeon, who was feeling nauseous from drinking too much. She understood how broken the lawyer's heart was until the girl couldn't bear to leave him. The next day, the girl advised Taeyeon to keep holding on to Hyena and never let her go, even if obstacles arise. She once comforted him by saying that Taeyeon is a crown prince more suited to be with Hyena than with Dong Chan. The young lawyer was embarrassed while also feeling offended by Weiju's statement. Indeed, his career is more brilliant compared to Dong Chan, but he could still lose to a waiter. To calm himself, Taeyeon spent his weekend break leisurely walking around the farm, a place he once visited with Hyena. He explored every corner of the expanse that reminded him of his heart's praise.
나도 내가 왜 그런지 몰라서 답답했어요.
Meanwhile, at her home, Weiju took the time to congratulate Dong Chan and Hyena on their now official relationship. However, she reminded her older brother that she would never be willing if Dong Chan got hurt and had to sacrifice for Hyena. In the midst of her daily activities at home, Hyena is still busy monitoring the sales growth of the department store she manages. Hyena was truly happy when she found out that the mall was now experiencing rapid growth.
아가씨 기분 되게 좋겠어요. 에?
Hearing this information, Dong Chan immediately told President Kang. It shows Hyena is slowly changing, no longer as selfish as before, and is trying independent living in his home. He also said that Hyena was no longer the emotional girl who caused trouble, but a hardworking young woman willing to do any kind of work. Grandfather is really proud and asked Dong Chan to get ready to bring his granddaughter back home. In preparation for Hyena's return, Aunt Kung brought a bag containing a set of office clothes for Hyena to wear at the board of directors meeting tomorrow. Meanwhile, Mr. Jolga kept pestering the grandfather by looking for ways to bring down Hyena. He had a chance to delve into the issue of Hyena's expulsion until grandfather scolded him and judged that Jolga was meddling too much in matters that were not his priority. Meanwhile, he himself never completed his work optimally.
또 바쁜 사람이 왜 그렇게 해나 일에 신경 써?
Not only that, it turns out that Jolga is also secretly investigating Dong Chan's identity. As usual, Dong Chan encouraged Hyena before leaving for work so that she could perform her best and be confident. As soon as the board of directors meeting started, Jolgu began to attract the attention of the other directors by finding fault with Hyena, who he thought running away from problems. In front of grandfather and board of directors, Jolga revealed the special relationship between Hyena and her servant, who previously worked as a male escort.
저랑 관계 있는 일인가요?
Because the situation was getting more heated, Hyena ran from the meeting room towards Dong Chan and invited him to run. It turns out that grandfather already knew everything and it would be dangerous for them. When Hyena tries to drag him away, Dong Chan wants to explain everything to grandfather. However, for Hyena, explanations seem pointless and a waste of time because the reporters had prepared to surround.
그러면 일단 가자.
Both of them then ran away from the reporters' reach and finally agreed to go for a walk to a beach that was quite far from Seoul. For Hyena, running away was the safest way to avoid trouble. Both of them were so happy during the trip until they arrived at a beautiful beach and decided to rent a small lodging room not far from there. Hyena said she could live far from her grandfather's luxurious facilities if Dong Chan was with her.
또 오면 되지. 그게 뭐 어렵나?
At the beach, Hyena played with the crashing waves and drew both of their faces on the stretch of sand. Even though they were on the run, Hyena smiled, freely enjoying this happiness. In the night, Dong Chan, who had rented 2 rooms at the inn, said goodbye to sleep in the next room. However, Hyena Vandit asked Dong Chan to join her. When he was about to prepare the mattress, he accidentally fell on Hyena's body and the girl prepared to be kissed by Dong Chan. But apparently, Dong Chan decided not to and left the inn. It turned out he was struggling with a dilemma, trying to make a difficult decision in his life. The next day, Dong Chan, who had just woken up, was surprised to see Hyena so diligently preparing breakfast dishes. She was enthusiastic about making kimchi soup, Dong Chan's favorite dish, as the one made by his aunt. Even though it tasted very salty, Dong Chan still praised Hyena's skills and encouraged her not to give up on learning to cook to survive.
청소도 하고 빨래도 하면서 그렇게 살 수 있어요?
When Hyena wanted to play longer at the beach and planned to roast clams, Dong Chan instead tried to persuade her to return to Seoul soon because he didn't want grandfather Khan worried. If Hyena believes, Dong Chan assures her that he returned to Seoul to plead with her grandfather to bless their relationship. Without thinking, Hyena was finally willing to return to Seoul feeling very happy.
아가씨 생각 많이 했었는데.
On the other hand, while Hyena and Dong Chan were escaping from Seoul, Weiju went to Taeyeon and complained about the news of their relationship that had spread. Those who tried to find the whereabouts of Dong Chan and Hyena became increasingly frustrated because neither of their phones was active. It was painful for Weiju to let it go, but he was concerned seeing Taeyeon's condition, who was more stressed because he felt defeated by a servant. Weiju tried to cheer her up by singing a sad song karaoke room. She openly admitted that she really hated Hyena out of jealousy. She wondered why all the men liked her, even though Hyena was so rude and not special at all. It turns out, Dong Chan invited Hyena back to Seoul not to seek the grandfather's blessing, but to help the grandfather reunite his grandchild with Taeyeon and his parents. Arriving at a hotel, Dong Chan said goodbye and left for a moment, which made Hyena feel trapped between the presence of her grandfather and the Taeyeon family.
아이고 그렇지요 뭐.
In this meeting, the grandfather and Taeyeon's parents agreed to promptly set a wedding date. The grandfather also did this in hopes of quelling the rumors that were spreading. Hyena immediately rejected the marriage plan, making Tuat Taeyeon's parents very angry and disappointed. In front of her grandfather, she admitted that she could not marry anyone other than Dong Chan. However, her grandfather firmly rejected the idea, saying it was absolutely impossible. Grandfather threatened that if Hyena dared to defy his prohibition, he would disown her from the family lineage.
어떻게 이럴 수가 있어?
Feeling like she was being played, Hyena rushed to meet Dong Chan, who was at the flower shop. She immediately slapped him and wondered why Dong Chan had the heart to lie to her. Hyena suspected that it was all Taeyeon's plan, but Dong Chan denied it and admitted that it was all with his consent. They didn't do it without careful thought. It was all for Hyena's own good. Dong Chan asserts that it is very unlikely for him and Hyena to be united because it would only make Hyena suffer to marry someone who is not her equal.
아가씨, 전
됐어.
Overwhelmed with emotion, Hyena chose to stay at a hotel and refused to return home. Manager Young asked Dong Chan to find Hyena's whereabouts and ask her to return. Her grandfather won't worry. As soon as they arrived at Hyena's room, Dong Chan tried to drive her home, but the girl stubbornly refused and even threatened to report Dong Chan to the authorities. After being trapped in her deep feelings of love for Dong Chan, Hyena is being toyed with because Dong Chan chooses to give herself to Taeyeon. In tears, Hyena swore she was willing to leave all her wealth behind if she could live with Dong Chan. Hyena didn't even care if her grandfather no longer acknowledged her as his granddaughter.
다 버릴 수도 있다고 생각했어.
Even though he indeed harbored deep feelings for his own employer, Dong Chan was aware of his position and tried his best to act professionally. And he firmly stated that he would stay by her side, even if it meant remaining a servant. Dong Chan warned Hyena to quickly leave the hotel because manager Jang's group was ready to pick her up. Dong Chan made a firm decision to step away from the hotel while battling the turmoil in his mind. But in the end, he could no longer bear to deceive himself and returned to Hyena's room and then hugged the girl tightly. Dong Chan continues to kiss Hyena, and both are ready to make love with passionate feelings. After spending a beautiful night together, the next morning Hyena woke up from sleep accompanied by Dong Chan under the same blanket. The two then continued their date by happily and leisurely strolling around the city and enjoying a special moment at a cafe. Although thrilling, in the end both of them agreed to face their grandfather and ask for his blessing. Although he didn't give his blessing directly, however, President Kam also didn't strictly forbid it because he still needed Dong Chan to be by Hyena's side. Meanwhile, Manager Jang and Aunt Kung were puzzled by grandfather's confusing behavior. It turns out, grandfather has another plan to keep Dong Chan so that Hyena doesn't run away again like before. He will also truly distance Dong Chan from his granddaughter after Hyena is confirmed as the managing director. That day, Hyena returned to work at Konseng Group, and Dong Chan helped handle all her difficulties.
아, 이거 그냥 포가라고 하세요.
Without Hyena's knowledge, the grandfather candidly told Dong Chan that he would never approve of their relationship, as it would severely damage the reputation of the company he had built over the years. Realizing grandfather's decision, Dong Chan tries to keep it a secret and continues to act romantically towards Hyena, as if nothing happened.
아가씨가 인터넷 쇼핑몰 때문에 기고만장해 있다며.
While at the office, Dong Chan intimidated Mr. Jolgo and threatened to report him to his grandfather about his actions, intending to harm Hyena. Because of that fear, Mr. Jolgo stopped cornering Hyena and promised to support her work. Taeyeon met with Hyena and intended to apologize for what happened yesterday when he forced his feelings on her. Now, Taeyeon is beginning to open his heart and allowing Hyena to choose the man she truly loves.
그게 해나 씨를 위하는 거라고.
Even though they can't be together as a couple, Taeyeon asked Hyena for permission so they could remain friends without involving feelings. Not much different Weiju has also come to terms with Dong Chan choosing Hyena. As long as her putter brother is happy, she helps Dong Chan pack Hyena's belongings that are still left at her house. Taeyeon and Weiju are getting closer to each other. In front of Weiju, Taeyeon admitted that he had let go of his feelings for Hyena and wanted to be happy in his own way. On the weekend, grandfather took Hyena for a walk in a bamboo park. This time, grandfather disapproved of Hyena's relationship with Dong Chan. Grandfather threatened to immediately remove Hyena from the family lineage.
이제 때가 온 것 같다. 그런 줄 알고 있어.
Hyena wasn't afraid of her grandfather said, and remained firm in her decision to choose Dong Chan, even if she had to live in poverty. Because he didn't expect the challenge, The grandfather had heart trouble and weakened suddenly, and he had to be taken to the hospital. With deep regret, Hyena watched her grandfather lying weak in the hospital bed and promised to obey all his requests as long as he regained his health. After waking up, the grandfather called her and asked that he forbids Hyena from marrying Dong-chan. In the end, Hyena chose to set aside her feelings of love to meet her grandfather's request. The girl couldn't hold back her tears, unable to express the decision her grandfather had made.
그러니까
However, Dong-chan, who had come to know everything, finally had to admit that he and Hyena indeed should end their romantic relationship. The entire staff at home welcomed grandfather, who came home from the hospital. As promised, ever since grandfather returned, Hyena had always stayed by his side and took care of him with great dedication. Amidst her busy schedule, Hyena can never forget Dong-chan and always writes everything about him in a letter.
그거 하나만 빼고 모든 게 똑같아.
At the flower shop, Dong-chan was working, and Kung told him Mr. Kong had returned from the hospital and his condition had not improved as he could only walk with the help of a wheelchair. Dong-chan hopes Mr. Kong lives longer for the happiness of his granddaughter. She also expressed his gratitude for the trust grandfather had shown by making him one of the staff members at his home. When they met the hyena, neither of them said a word and they just simply left. In front of the council members visiting her grandfather, Hyena behaved gracefully and tried to convince the directors that she was worthy of being the successor. The grandfather, feeling that his condition was worsening, advised manager Jang and Aunt Kung to remain loyal in taking care of Hyena even after he was gone. However, Aunt Kung also tried to explain that what Hyena needed wasn't herself or the manager, but Dong-chan, because this time it was Dong-chan who improved Hyena's bad habits for the better. Meanwhile, Weiju approached Taeyeon and asked help to reunite Hyena and Dong-chan. They intend to bring the two together for a romantic date on a cruise ship.
우리 오빠는 거진 다 와간다니까 광해나만 오면 되겠다.
However, the reality turned out to be unexpected. It seems that Hyena and Dong-chan were unable to attend because they accidentally met by the riverside. Because the plan was unexpectedly cancelled, Weiju and Taeyeon stuck on a cruise ship enjoying time together. On her birthday, the staff celebrated Hyena's birthday with a surprise. The girl wished to become a better person and hoped her grandfather would live a long life. She didn't forget to slip in a prayer for Dong-chan as her love never changed. The next day, Hyena sat with her grandfather again in the yard. Smiling, her grandfather told Hyena to live a happy life, just the way she wanted.
네가 원하는 대로.
Before taking his last breath, he asked Hyena to bring him a blanket. After Hyena returned, they realized grandfather had fallen asleep. In a state of despair at the cemetery, Hyena sat, feeling Dong-chan's presence nearby. Dong-chan gently embraced Hyena's body in his calming hug. After her grandfather's passing, Hyena matured significantly. One day, she invited all the board members to an emergency meeting to discuss her plan to leave for America. It turned out that Hyena wanted to pursue a study program in order to continue running the company. Before leaving, Hyena asked Mr. Julga to temporarily replace her as the chief director.
그때까지 잘 지켜주세요. 말아먹지 마시고요.
Before heading to the airport, Hyena gave Dong-chan news so that her former servant would immediately follow her. This time Dong-chan will not lose Hyena and forbids her to leave. Dong-chan remains at Hyena's house as personal servant. The two of them are seen arguing over something trivial. Until finally, Hyena tried to persuade Dong-chan by kissing his lips repeatedly.
Love you.